Hello and welcome to this first video in this series. I'm making this series of videos for my Patreon followers. I'm not going to be able to make a video like this for every single painting that I make, but for the rare and special few that really resonate with me, making these videos helps me understand my own creative process a little better. In this series, I will be taking a close look at my current paintings and examining them for technique and potential meaning. I say potential meaning because I never really set out in any of my paintings to deliver a specific narrative or to express some specific idea. Most of my paintings come from my liminal sketches where I'm intentionally putting myself into a subconsciously sensitive space from which spontaneous images will emerge. In this case, I probably was setting out with a little bit more intent than usual. I can't look at this painting without considering my earlier triptych of paintings, the Window Light series. In those three paintings, painted nearly 10 years ago, I seem to have been in a state of mind which I haven't been able to recreate since. There's something very calming about the light and quality of these three paintings that I wasn't able to capture in later paintings. I set out to try and recapture a little bit of that feeling. This piece is entitled For the Love of Fate. Like most of the titles for my pieces, it's a bit of an afterthought. The title comes from the Greek philosophy Amor Fati, love of fate. It's the idea that one should embrace the very turbulent and chaotic nature of life if one wants to be really happy. To embrace life as a series of ongoing challenges which are never going to end, rather than just endure the slings and arrow of outrageous fortune. Actually come to a place where you can love forces that are working against you. This painting shows a figure sleeping on a windowsill through which we can see a distant range of mountains. The sleeping figure has an oddly alien-type head and a body that looks as though it's wrapped in swaddling cloth. The entire scene has a sense of serenity to it, like one taking a long nap after a horrendous journey. In the sky above the scene, there is a large gray cloud that parallels the sleeping figure below it. At the left end of the cloud, on the opposite side of the painting from the creature's head, there's what appears to be a ruined castle on the cloud. I think that's significant because a castle in the sky has to do with the idea of impossible, foolish, or unattainable goals. And I get a sense that this is what the figure is reclining from, having once tried to achieve something so lofty and so beyond it that it's now decided it would embrace fate and simply leave the castle to drift away on its eternal cloud. The landscape behind the sleeping figure resembles 3 rows of mountains. In the foreground are lush green foothills, then behind that, cool icy blue higher mountains, and then beyond that, in the distance, white faded, are 4 large peaks. Directly above the sleeping figure, one of the peaks points up to the cloud, as if to indicate what the sleeping figure is dreaming about. Symbolically, I think of mountains in 2 ways. Firstly, there are boundaries that call out to be challenged. The highest peaks represent a peak of spiritual understanding. Olympus, Zion, Sinai are all represented here. The 3 rows of mountains here may also represent something like a road of trials, a series of tasks as found in many ancient myths. From the darkness around the window, vines have slowly crept in and covered the figure. This rather reminds me of the servants in the story of Sleeping Beauty. In that story, thorns and vines had grown over everything, but the people were unchanged over many years, sleeping in the forest. The androgynous sleeping figure has a rather alien-like appearance to it. I make a connection between that and contemporary alien folklore. I think of stories of alien encounters as being a modern adaptation of ancient fairy lore, and the alien characters, like those creatures, are something akin to the divine. There's a tiny detail on the far right which I'd almost forgotten about. There I painted a small rusted key hanging just on the inside of the window. Keys are a recurring theme in my paintings. They have an obvious significance of being a tool by which you can transcend from one place to another. But in this case, there's a bit of a mystery. Since there's no doors about, one might wonder what the key is actually for. I tend to add details like this when they feel natural and proper in their place, but I don't always know why they're there. When I look at this painting now, it does fill me with a sense of calm. It's the kind of painting I'd like to have hanging in my bedroom, and I could look at it before I went to sleep. The creeping vines remind me of how sleep creeps over all of us and turns us all into dreaming creatures.